lady doing some kind of ritual. She cuts her hand and draws some satanic symbols on the wall with her blood. Then we are shown her face, which is quite scary. We then see 3 friends, in which Sophie is explaining to them the rules of a game. 1. Go into a quiet room. 2. Place a candle in the middle, light it, and use a book with a red cover and without illustrations. 3. Ask for permission to enter the game, and never quit the game without requesting it from the book. Then she asks Bea to get the book, and here we learn that they are planning to scare her. Bea comes to her room to get a book, when she sees a blood stain on the wall. Suddenly her brother Ethan comes there and tells her that he saw a horrible woman in his nightmare. Bea takes him to his room, and then joins Justin and Sophie with that book. She tells them that it was already here when they moved in. Just then they see a black cat there, and Bea tells them that it was already here in the house too. Sophie says that it must be the witch's cat, and asks her if she doesn't know the story of this house. The whole town says a witch used to live here. She did satanic rituals on animals, and then one day she disappeared. Justin then tells her that the cat is actually a demon that possesses its owners. He tells her a story where we see Witch Bonnie's husband returning from the war. He sees her clothes outside their house which were soaked in blood, and he gets very worried seeing this. He reaches his house and sees that the condition of the house is very bad, as if no one is living there for a long time. He goes to his room where he finds Bonnie lying naked on the bed. He asks her what happened, on which she gets up and sees him, and without saying anything lies down again. Then she pushes him back, and that's when his attention turns on the black cat. Then he comes out and starts checking the house, and only then Bonnie also comes there from behind. He asks her what happened here, but she comes out of the house without saying anything. He tries to cover her up, but she picks up a crossbow and heads toward the forest. Just before he could understand anything, his dog Argus barks at him and jumps on him. Then he picks up his bag and starts going back home. But he notices that his dog stops outside the house and sits there. After this, Martin leaves the cat outside the house. But when he comes inside, he hears Argus barking. He runs out and sees that Argus had killed that cat. Then he buries her in the field and comes back home. Now after some time, when Bonnie comes back after hunting, Martin is shocked to see that she is not normal. She starts looking for the cat making some strange sound and goes to another room, and Martin gets terrified seeing this. She starts screaming in anger, and Martin tries to calm her down, but then she smells the blood of that cat on his body and she pushes him in anger. Martin tells her that Argus did it, and Bonnie grabs her crossbow, goes to the barn, and kills Argus. But then Martin sees the cat alive and is shocked to see it. He comes inside the barn angrily and starts moving toward the cat. But then an arrow hits him, and before Bonnie can shoot him again, he attacks her. He then snatches the crossbow from her and shoots the cat, but it disappears. Bonnie stabs him again with the same arrow, and Martin knocks her down with a shovel to save himself. He sees that the cat has come back there again, and only then does Bonnie also becomes alive. He sees her eyes shining and understands that this is no longer his wife Bonnie, and he leaves from there. Now Justin and Sophie start laughing, and Sophie says that she doesn't know if the story is true or not, but the disappearance of the old woman who used to live here is true. Sophie then closes her eyes, places her palm on the cover of the book, and asks Red Book, "May I enter your game?" Then she opens the book and reads. She opened the door and lets in the shadows of the past. Just then Bea hears some whispering, but Justin says that he did not hear anything. Bea says that she does not want to play this anymore, but Sophie ignores her and asks the book if there is anyone with them here. She then reads that she was not alone. The shadows of the past were always with her. Now when it's Bea's turn, she asks the spirit to prove if it is really here with them. She then reads that she screams loudly but no one can hear her. Then all of a sudden they hear the scream of a woman from inside the house. Now they all get terrified and Bea says she does not want to play anymore. Sophie then asks the book how can they leave the game, and when she opens the book, her hand starts to shake, and Bea sees a shadow on the door. Justin says that they have to get out of here right now, but Bea says it's helping them, and if they leave the game, they will be in real danger. She then asks how many spirits are with them, and Book answers them 3. Sophie then again asks the book, how can they get out the game? And the book answers, read me. Now before they could understand anything, the pages of the book start turning and stop on a story. Justin reads the story, and we see a man named Nick in a store buying something. He looks outside, where her girlfriend Chloe is sitting in the car and is very sad. Nick then comes and sits in the car and asks her does it hurt. She asks him to take her home and they leave from there. Now on the way, Nick tells her that they will try again, to which Chloe says that it is not that easy. Nick says that maybe God is trying to tell them that this is not the right time for them. But both of them get into an argument over this and Chloe tells him to stop the car. But when he does not stop, she turns the steering, causing the car to stop. She then tells him that she thinks she saw something. And when she comes out of the car, she sees a boy standing in the middle of the road. Just then an old man points a gun at them and asks them to leave, and says that they do not understand what that demon is capable of. Nick tells Chloe to listen to the man, but Chloe starts running toward the boy, and the old man shoots her. Now Nick angrily knocks down the old man, and then he makes Chloe sit in the car. Chloe tells him that they can't leave the boy like this, so Nick starts walking toward him. The old man tries to stop him, but Nick grabs the boy's hand and brings him to Chloe. Then he sees that that old man is dead and his eyes have turned black. And then Nick's eyes also start turning black. And here Chloe also gets terrified seeing that boy's face. Here blood drips from Justin's finger on the book, and he sees someone there. But when Bea asks him what did he see, he says nothing. Now Sophie reads the next story, in which we see a girl named Jiho sleeping. Suddenly she wakes up and sees her dad sitting closing his eyes. And when he turns towards her, his eyes are white. Jiho wakes up from sleep and runs to her mother Hyunwoo and tells her that she had a bad dream. She says that Daddy's eyes were strange and she wanna go to see him. But Hyunwoo stops her to wake Daddy. Then the phone vibrates and it is her brother-in-law's call. She lies to him that she is out now, and that she is gonna be late. Jiho asks her why she lies to him, to which she says they have to be careful of him. She tells her that her father is sick, and after his death, they will get the insurance money, and she thinks that her uncle is thinking of that money. Only then Jiho's uncle starts banging at the door. But both of them sit quietly inside and start laughing. Now after he leaves, Hyunwoo goes to her room, and when Jiho also starts going to her room, the door of one of the rooms opens. She comes to the room, where we see her dad tied to the bed. Jiho checks his eyes and only then he wakes up. He says that he wants her to call her uncle, and tell him to come when mom is not here. Just then Hyunwoo also comes there and Jiho hides under the bed. Then we see that Hyunwoo has placed eye speculums on his eyes, and she takes out a needle from a box. Then she comes towards him and climbs on the bed, and Jiho could see their shadows on the wall. Now when Hyunwoo touches the pin on his forehead, Jiho also feels it on her forehead. Then she tells him to keep quiet, and when Jiho closes her ears, he stops hearing too, and when she is about to prick his eyes, Jiho closes her eyes, and Hyunwoo hears her voice. She asks her to come out from there, and says that she is doing all this because Daddy wants her to. Jiho says that she is lying and tells her not to hurt him, to which she asks her if she will take his place. Then she grabs her hand, due to which she gets terrified and says do it to Daddy. Hyunwoo stops hearing this, and asks her to go out. Next, we see her sitting outside when the door opens and her dad calls out her name. Jiho goes there and sees that her dad is dead, and Hyunwoo acting strange sitting on the chair. Here blood drips from Sophie's nose on the book, and only then she says that she hears some strange sound. Bea asks her what did she hear, and then Sophie sees Jiho's father there. Justin explains to her that there is nothing there. It's the book making her see things. But she gets very scared and says it's next to her, and that she is leaving from there. Suddenly she falls down and a force drags her to a room. Justin tries to open the door, and Bea asks the book where is Sophie. The book tells them to keep reading, and Bea says maybe if they end the game, they can help Sophie. Now she starts reading the next story, in which we see a doctor named Carlo crying in front of a mirror. Next, she goes to check on a patient named Blake, and she is trying her best to keep him alive. She tells Nurse Judy that they need another injection. Judy says there's none left here, maybe in the East Wing, to which she says she will get it. The patient's wife tells Carla that keeping him alive isn't right, and here we learn that the patient is Carla's brother. Carla goes to the East Wing to get the injection, and sees that that wing is completely deserted. Now she is looking for it when she hears some sound, but she ignores it. Finally, she gets that injection, and when she starts leaving from there, she sees that her stethoscope has disappeared from there. She ignores it too and starts leaving, but the door was locked. Only then does she realize that someone is behind her, but there is no one there. Then she starts looking for another way out when she hears some sound from behind. Looking back, she sees a room light on, and when she goes there, it turns out to be a messy bathroom. Then she hears someone's voice from inside, but there is no one there. And when she peeks inside the tub, the music starts playing. She goes there and turns off the music and feels that someone is joking with her. She gets another exit, but that too is closed, and only then someone calls her name. She runs from there and comes back to the exit door and starts asking for help. But then she hears some sound from behind, and sees that someone is walking towards her. Seeing this, she gets terrified and goes to a room, and when she comes out, she finds no one there. She quickly picks up her torch and starts going inside, and only then the music starts playing. She goes to that room and sees that the injection is there, and as soon as she picks it up, she hears some sound and an entity appears in front of her. Carla gets very scared of him and again comes to the exit and starts asking for help. But then that entity starts coming towards her, and as soon as he holds her hand, she sees that it is Blake. He points her to the medicine and she says she cannot do it, but Blake smiles, and she releases the medicine, and Blake disappears from there. Then she comes back to the ward and meets Blake for the last time, after which she stops his life support, and Blake dies. Here Bea says that the story was about her mom, and then her blood also drips on the book. She says that they all bled on the book. She thinks that their blood is fitting the book and it's giving life to it. Justin says he doesn't care and it's over. But then the pages of the book turn and Bea says there is another story here. Only then she sees her mother in front of her going inside a room. Justin tries to explain to her that it's not real, but Bea goes after her mother, and Justin hears Sophie's voice. He goes to that room where Sophie says it hurts, and suddenly demonic hands break his neck and pulls him inside. Now we are shown the last story of that book, which belongs to England. Here we see a girl named Maggie who is the pastor's daughter and is filling a bottle of holy wine. The pastor asks her if she is ready, to which she smiles and says yes. When both of them reach the church, all the people of the village are present there. Now the pastor tells everyone that they should live as they are born, and that they should not do anything against the will of God. There is also a boy in the church who is watching Maggie. The pastor then tells the people that if a man also lies with a man as he lies with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death, and their blood shall be upon them. Then we see Maggie getting intimate with an old lady, and when Maggie leaves her house, the boy has seen her. They both enter that old lady's house and make her captive, after which her hands are tied and she is taken throughout the village. And then after tying her at one place, all the villagers start throwing tomatoes at her. Then when Maggie reaches there, she is also given tomatoes to throw at that woman, and Maggie has to do it under pressure. The woman then looks at Maggie and we see an entity behind her. After this, Maggie makes everyone drink holy wine one by one in the church, and the pastor starts preaching again. But then blood starts coming out of people's nose, and they start vomiting. And here we see that black entity behind Maggie again. Next, we see that everyone in the church is dead, and Maggie is back home. She takes a knife and goes to the room where the lady is being held captive, and she kills the boy who is molesting her. And then they leave the village. Here the wallpapers of Bea's room were torn, behind which she finds satanic symbols on the wall. Then a noose falls on her neck, causing her to suffocate. But then she falls down. She goes outside and sees that Sophie has taken her brother Ethan at knife point. She cuts off one of his fingers from which his blood drips onto the book, and she releases Ethan. After this she starts reading a spell in another language and says that she is coming now. And then she slits her throat and dies. Bea asks Ethan to go to his room and hide, and sees blood toppling out of the book. She then hides behind a chair, and we see an entity coming out of the book behind. And this is the same witch that we saw at the beginning of the movie. Then that witch leaves from there. But as soon as Bea comes out, that witch comes back, and vomits inside her mouth. Next, we see her outside Ethan's room, and she tells him to come out, and then the witch comes out from behind her and the movie ends here.